Have you ever found yourself in a toxic relationship and wondered how you got there? Have you felt shame about it, like you should have known better? Maybe you've had a series of abusive relationships and wondered why you keep attracting the wrong kind of people. If you are or have been in a relationship with a pathological narcissist or a similar kind of toxic person, there's no reason for shame about it. It has nothing to do with a lack of intelligence. Though these relationships can make you feel crazy, you are not crazy. Manipulative, predatory people have radar for the vulnerable, and there are specific personality characteristics they look for when they shop for a partner. And these are virtuous characteristics that most of the time we consider to be strengths. Today, I'll explain what 3 of the most common characteristics are and how these relationships work. I'm psychotherapist Siobhan Scott, and on this channel, I respond to your questions about everything related to psychology, relationships, and mental health. If you enjoy this program, please like it and feel free to subscribe to my channel. Toxic relationships start off hot. People may describe them as love at first sight because the chemistry is so intense. This person seems to adore you. They flatter you. They're attentive, empathic, and attuned. And you think you've found the person of your dreams. These relationships tend to move fast because of all the love bombing, which floods your neurohormone system with dopamine, oxytocin, and endogenous opioids. And before you know it, you're hooked. If it sounds like I'm describing addiction, it's because I am. Like a pair of Legos, the 2 of you fit together right from the start. And you tell your friends that this person is perfect for you. You finally found your soulmate. The problem, of course, is that this phase doesn't last. It may be great for a month or 2 or 3, but eventually the compliments begin to turn to criticism. When they're having a bad day, it's your fault. They blame you. There are attempts to control you, a lack of respect for your thoughts, feelings, and needs, and maybe even angry outbursts, sometimes breaking things or violence. This disorients you. It's scary. And so you adjust your behavior to keep from upsetting them. You start to walk on eggshells to keep the peace. You don't realize it, but you become increasingly anxious and depressed and start to obsess over how you can change things for the better and return things to the way they used to be. You become very, very careful and struggle with finding ways to calm down. It's extra confusing because it's not always bad. There are good days and times when it's fun. If your toxic partner senses that you're pulling away, they often play victim. They may cry, vent about their pain, their own abuse history, or say things that pull at your heart. There are apologies and promises. I'll do better. It will never happen again. And then the love bombing starts over. The sex is passionate and intense. And you tell yourself that this good part is reality, that this is what's going to last. Hope dominates your thinking and the bond becomes solidified. It's as if there are 2 people inside your partner, the good one and the bad one, but you tell yourself that the good person is reality and that the ugly behavior will stop happening as you help them heal. But that never happens because you are not that powerful. While many call this love, it's actually a trauma bond. I've just described a classic abusive relationship, whether or not there's physical violence. Emotional abuse counts as abuse, and in many ways, these relationships are more confusing to navigate because it's easier to recognize that a fist coming at your face is wrong, while it's our tendency to minimize other types of abuse that occur verbally. Normal people in close relationships with pathological people are always negatively affected by them in multiple ways. But some people find it extremely difficult to get away from a manipulative, abusive person, even when it's clear to the rest of the world that this relationship is causing them harm. This is the nature and power of the trauma bond. It's cemented in an addictive process by a reward, punishment, reward cycle. I'll be doing another video soon breaking down exactly how this works. So let's summarize. The abusive, manipulative partner is often outwardly charming. They may have erratic emotions and they blame you for their shifting mood. They often isolate you from family and friends. They make promises they don't keep. And they gaslight, which means trying to convince you that your perceptions are always wrong. You may be responding by making excuses or minimizing their behavior. You may be experiencing anxiety, depression, and self-blame in response. You may be using mood-altering substances to cope, like alcohol, because you're upset all the time. And you may be growing numb to the emotional or physical abuse, and you may normalize it. You may be walking on eggshells, being very careful not to upset them, and lying to your loved ones about what really goes on in your relationship. Now, I have found that there are often 3 virtuous personality traits that make you vulnerable to a manipulative, pathological person, qualities that in other parts of your life serve you very well. The first of these traits is a high level of empathy. You're innately compassionate, kind, and you can easily connect with others on a deep level. It's natural for you to sense others' feelings. You care about people. You're the kind of person that others turn to when they have problems, and these qualities make you a terrific friend. Your vulnerability here is that the manipulative, toxic person recognizes this about you, and they intuitively know how to tap into your empathy to get you to care about them so much that you overlook your needs and the ways that their behavior damages you. They try to convince you that you can soothe their pain and help them change or calm their anger. And because you're a natural helper, you respond with compassion and kindness, which basically means you've been hooked. The second good quality that makes you vulnerable is optimism. You tend to see the bright side, focus on the positive, and you expect the best from people. You look at your toxic partner and you focus on the good things. And there are many good things about them. If there weren't, you never would have been with them. But those good things do not cancel out the other side, and they can't erase the harm that's being done to you. In this case, your natural optimism distorts reality. Hope is your enemy when it's not based in reality. Remember that. False hope impairs judgment. The third thing that makes you vulnerable is perseverance. You're a hard worker and you don't give up. You hang in there. You're not a quitter. If you make a commitment, you stick to it. And if you make a vow, gosh darn it, you're going to keep it. This stick-to-itedness serves you well in many areas of your life. You tend to set goals and you do the hard work to accomplish them. You don't walk away when things get tough. You have great strength of character. But in a toxic relationship, this kind of strength simply means that you will learn to excel at suffering. And ultimately, that will ruin your life. Sometimes the strongest thing we can do is let go. And knowing when to quit is actually a mark of wisdom. We all understand the world from our own subjective perspective. When we're honest, loyal, and trustworthy, we assume that other people are too. We don't go through life with an agenda to manipulate and take advantage of people. So we fail to recognize when others view relationships through a very different lens. We move through the world with empathy. They move through it with manipulation. Now, it's commonly assumed that people who experience toxic, abusive relationships as adults grew up with abuse in their families. And sometimes this is true. People from abusive families have learned that cruelty is normal among people who claim to love each other. They don't recognize it as aberrant when it happens, and they may even feel an unconscious attraction to it when, on a gut level, they feel that they can just get it right in this new relationship and finally they're going to be loved. They were raised with a mental template that says it's their behavior that makes others act abusively, something that a toxic partner will plug right into. In other cases, individuals may have grown up in families where they learned that self-sacrifice was a virtue and that taking care of others' emotional needs at the expense of their own was expected. When a child is raised by a parent who's emotionally unstable, they may have developed a heightened sense of empathy, the ability to read their parent's mood. And sometimes their only way to be emotionally safe and connected was to be a giver to their parent and suppress their own needs. A child like this learns to anticipate what everyone else around them needs in order to keep things calm. Adults who grew up in homes like this often go into professions as caregivers of some kind. They naturally express empathy and feel comfortable with self-sacrifice, despite the toll it takes on them. And sometimes people who end up in toxic relationships had perfectly normal childhoods. They may just naturally be high in empathy, optimism, and perseverance, and had the bad fortune to run into a pathological master manipulator. An intelligent individual with a dangerous personality disorder can get the best of many of us. Even therapists can be fooled. Breaking free from a toxic relationship requires the recognition that we must have empathy for ourselves and accept that we don't deserve to be treated cruelly. We need to understand that suffering and self-sacrifice are not virtues. In fact, they make us ill and ruin our lives. We need to be aware that optimism is our enemy when it's not based in reality, and that we need to believe behavior, not words. And finally, we must accept that persevering in a misguided attempt to fix a pathological person does not work. Often, the strongest thing we can do is let go. This is harder than it sounds. If you find yourself struggling in an abusive relationship, reach out for help. It takes time, careful planning, and support to leave. The National Domestic Violence Hotline is a wonderful resource at 800-799-7233, and it's not just for those suffering physical violence. Support is there for anyone dealing with abuse. Please take good care of yourself.